So yeah, man, that sounds about right though. But yeah, I feel like you all were able to, for lack of a better term, bond through your pain, right? That you had to go through,
Hmm.
but it showed on the field, right? Like you built that toughness. But talk to me about closing out. So you talked about starting that season against USC. Talk to me about closing out that regular season against Bama. I said we are going to come back to this game. You guys playing Alabama, probably shorthanded, right? So like, what was the mentality for you all going into that game and trying to figure out how you're going to come out of there with a W, and what that did for you all going into the next year?
I mean, that's part of the genius of going through all the stuff with Yox and him trying your manhood and questioning it. You're with a group of guys that you came in with, and then after a couple years, like you've all, like you just said, you all been doing all that stuff together and working, and you create a brotherhood that's different. I mean, I've got real life two biological brothers. I love them to death. I'd do anything for them. But then I got a whole nother set of guys that to this day, I mean, that was a long time ago, you know, not 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them guys could call me up today. I'd, whatever you need, man, I'm coming down there to do it. And that's the kind of relationship we had. And then I mean, our leaders were awesome. Carnell and Ronnie B, them guys, man, Don Terrius Thomas, Carlos Dansby, AT. I mean, all them guys, like the whole group, we were all so tight that honestly, the vibe in the locker room, in the weight room, all year, we were all brothers. And man, the coaches were all pretty tough on us. But when we got in tough times during games, man, there wasn't nobody swinging towels and just talking a bunch of talk. We got after it. We'd get together and be like, all right, this is bullcrap. Like, let's go. And it sounds kind of cliche, but man, the relationship on that team was unbelievable between everybody.
Mm.
So, I mean, that's one of my favorite things that I remember is, man, the relationship we had with everybody was awesome.
Yeah.
There wasn't like a lunchroom in high school where there's like sectors over here. Man, we were all tight, and we all go out on the weekends together. It was awesome.
So, Cooper, big news in and around the plains. We got a new coach. Our last coach left after 8 years of what some feel were disappointing results, and a new coach has come in right now. When you came into Auburn, you never really went through a head coaching change, but you did see a lot of different offensive coordinators while you were there. Talk to us a little bit about what it's like changing systems, because Petrino brought something in different than Mazzoni was doing, and then we had the Knowles Minger offense for a year, and then Borges came in, and we all know how that ended. But what kind of adjustments are made from year to year when you see a different offensive coordinator literally every year?
So I think probably if you ask that question to a quarterback, it'd be a pretty intense, like there's a lot going on. Mm-hmm. Honestly, to me, it was like, all right, like you just tell me what to do. I'm going to learn what I got to, like, it's not rocket science, honestly, to learn a playbook for an offensive lineman tight end. I mean, it can get kind of confusing sometimes, being like receivers, you got, X, Y, and Z. And if you're all like switching spot, but it's not that difficult to pick up what you're supposed to do. And so the difference in the offensive coordinators wasn't that hard to learn. But what was amazing, and I'll never forget, was when you had a good offensive coordinator, you could tell during the game that they were calling the right plays at the right time. For example, when Petrino got there, the defense was on their heels. a lot of the time. I mean, that guy, I don't want to say something I shouldn't say. If I saw Petrino in the street and he talked to me the way he used to talk to me, it would end differently.
It would be on. Yeah.
The guy, something's wrong with the guy. I mean, he would say, like, he would tear you down to, like, he'd rip your soul out. Meanest person I've probably ever met in my life. But during a game, you could totally tell, like, man, the guy knows what he's doing. He's calling the right plays at the right time. The defense doesn't know everything that's coming. And the reason I learned that is because when he left and then Coach Dahl took over, it was like, I mean, Coach Dahl is he is an unbelievable offensive line coach. The best. I just don't know if offensive coordinator was his thing. And it was it was an O-line coach running the offense. I remember during Georgia Tech, we lost at Georgia Tech.
Oh, man, don't remind me.
I know. That's what people ask me. They're like, what do you regret? And I'm like, we freaking lost at Georgia Tech. But anyway, we ran the same play 3 times in a row. Inside zone to the right, 3 times in a row, never worked and punted. Because Coach Nall was like, inside zone to the, he just
line it up, do it again.
Right, he's got that mentality. Like, man, that doesn't work. These guys, they're good too, and they know it's coming. Like, so, it wasn't hard to learn, but you could totally tell during a game, like, man, and Coach Borges was good. I to this day, and I like Al Borges. But to this day, I don't think he called his best game during the Sugar Bowl that year. We could not score a touchdown. And he doing all this spread stuff. We kept going 4 wide. I don't know why that was his game plan when we got in the red zone, because there ain't no reason for us on that team to do spread ever, really. And we got Ronnie Brown, Carnell Williams, and Brandon Jacobs. We don't need to spread anybody out. Let's run over him. But, that was the biggest. You could tell during a game who's calling plays.
You brought up old Coach Petrino.
Yeah.
I have my Petrino memories. I was actually setting up his laptop in his hotel room at the Capital One Bowl when he got the job at Louisville.
Okay.
Right. And so he's taking a phone call and he's telling somebody that he's the new head coach at Louisville. And I don't know, man. I have my feelings about him just like you do. But I remember, there are 2 things that happened there, right? Like he was probably the meanest person you ever met, but he was competent.
Yes.
And what I wanted to touch on a little is just the line for players between coaching them up, motivation, right? And then destroying a player's confidence and where that line is. Because, there were some things that definitely happened, behind the scenes there that, we'll talk about off camera. But where was the line for you when it comes to coaching, to where it's too much? And it's too harsh, and it's not motivational at all.
So I think that's what makes a good coach. The guys that can figure that out for each particular player. Because, and like, again, like when I was at Auburn, like kids started not wanting to redshirt, like, hey, I'm not going to live in Sewell Hall because it's a dump. Like the generation started changing, and like you can't talk to kids now like you did then necessarily. But the really good coaches, they pick up on that kind of stuff. Like, hey, I can talk to Cooper this way. I can talk to Mike this way. Like they pick up on that stuff. And, some people are like, well, you just can't talk to kids that way anymore. And I look down the street at Alabama and see Nick Saban. He's not necessarily patting people on the back 24/7.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He's not waving a tail. He's not like a rah-rah guy. Like, you either do what Nick Saban says or you're out. And I think a lot of the programs are losing that because there's such a big focus on recruiting. And it's almost like trying to find a girlfriend. Like, if I'm trying to court this, girl over here, like, I'm going to be nice to her, I'm going to buy her a flower, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Like, I'm never going to, like, challenge her. But the really good coaches, people like Saban, they can do both. Like, man, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to put my, like a better term, I'm going to put my foot on your throat and see how you respond.
Right.
And then we're going to move forward and we're going to win, And it's different. But for me, maybe it's because of the way that my dad raised me or having to, I'm not really sure. I was totally fine with the, like, people tearing me down and, like, challenging my man, like, really unnecessary stuff. And I talk about with some of my friends now, like, and football's kind of crazy. Like, they kind of, it's almost like it's like, training fighting dogs or something. Like, honestly, I mean, some of the stuff we did during winter workouts with Coach Ox, they used to get a towel, a hand towel, this long, roll it up as tight as they could, put tape around it. So it's like this long, and it's just like a towel stick. And they would make us get in the center of the entire team, and they would get two guys, and you put your hands on the towel, and then they would just say, all right, go, and see who could take the towel from the other guy.
Mm.
And so I had to go with Jake Slaughter.
Oh, that's not.
He got a concussion, and my nose was bleeding. And that was the last time so after that time, I mean, because neither one of us were going to let go of the towel, but that was our mentality. Like, I'm going to literally, I mean, this sounds ridiculous, but I'm going to kill you or I'm getting the towel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that was our mentality. Like, so it's a little bit nuts. After that time, they didn't let people, they made a new rule. You had to stay on your knees. But I mean, back then, when me and Jake did it, you could stand up, like, whatever it takes to get the towel from the other guy. And they kind of treated us like that. And it's a little bit crazy, but that's kind of one reason we were so good.
Yeah.
So I think the really good coaches understand certain players, you can't talk to them that way. I bet nobody jumped down Carnell's throat that often, honestly. Granted, he was amazing. But, like, coaches probably picked up on the fact, hey, as soon as we get on to Cooper, he tends to perform a whole lot better. And so I was pretty quick. They'd get a butt and let me know.
Well, so, I mean, I don't know how much you've been keeping up with what's been going on in the spring with the team right now and with the new coaching staff, but I sense some of that mentality coming back, right? Because the players are talking about how militaristic the style of the new coaching staff is, and even coming out of the workout program, Owen Peppo made the statement that they're going to be out there looking like Marines, right? Just because of the program that they're going through. So, again, I don't know how much you've been keeping up with it, but if you have been watching it, like, do you feel like you can sense the shift in the toughness? Again, I don't want to make it seem like they were soft before, but it's just it's
I mean, I get it.
Yeah. But do you feel like you can sense that change in the program?
Yeah, again, not calling the other team soft or, like, I mean, those guys, God, they work their freaking butts off all the time.
Right.
But there's a difference in mentalities at different programs with different coaching staffs. And again, I look at which we would all take Nick Saban. He rules with an iron fist. Like, I do hope. I don't keep up with what's going on necessarily right now, just because I don't follow recruiting. I don't follow, like, the spring a whole lot, just because it's all hype. Like, but I'm gonna watch every single game and see what the guys, how they perform.
Right.
But I love to hear that it's kind of military like and Marine like. I mean, those guys are winners. You know what I'm saying? Like, the U.S. Army, the Marine, like, those guys are badass, So I like that. Football takes discipline. I mean, if you start talking about basketball, there's 5 guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need these 5 to work. Like, football is, man, everybody matters. You got 11 people on the field at the same time, and everybody's got to be doing the right thing. One person screws up, plays dead.
Yeah.
I mean, so I like that. I will say, I've been following Coach Hart, and I wish Coach Harsin the best. But I follow him on Instagram, and he's posted a couple kind of cheesy quotes. Like I can't, whatever. Like effort doesn't take any skill to give good effort. And I want to make sure that we don't have Butch Jones #2 coming in. With like 5-star hearts and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, I know nothing about Coach Harsin, but I'll be honest, I'd love to hear that he's kind of bringing that, a lot of discipline, work hard attitude. Like, I think that's what Auburn football needs, man. That's how it kind of had always been. It got a little crazy with I liked the spread offense and all that kind of stuff, but I think it got a little like we were talking a lot, but we weren't doing a lot.
Yeah.
That's my only problem with Coach Malzahn. I just wish it was a little more hardcore. And that's probably because when I was there, it was pretty hardcore. But, I know I sound like an old man now.
So I have a question about coaches. And, a lot of you guys credit your position coaches for the success that you had, right? To listen to guys like Devin Aroma Shadu talk about Coach Knox, and you talked about Coach Nall. If you're a kid now that's in the program and they all have new position coaches, the only coaching position that didn't turn over was at running back, right? Mm-hmm. Cadillac is still there. What is your advice to guys now with these new coaches coming in how to adjust and how to make sure they're getting the most out of their leadership?
I mean, my advice is just to listen to, like, we trust that Coach Harsin has brought in a good coaching staff. I had 4 different tight end coaches, maybe. I mean, so I had new ones. I had a lot of coaches. Like, your job as the player is to listen, do what the coach says. Coach Harsin's hired good people. That's why we hired him. And buy into what your coach is saying, because it's never going to work if you don't, like, if you're always, like, man, he's wrong about this or that, it's never going to work. So you got to buy in, and if you come to a point, if there's a player that's good enough, which is probably pretty rare in college, if there's a player good enough to be like, hey, coach, I don't agree with this. Maybe we should, like, do it this way. They should have that conversation. But honestly, in college, like, be a good listener, and coach tells you to do it, do it. I mean, I had a verbal fight with Coach Insminger one time because he was making us run sprints after practice for, I don't remember why. I thought it was a weak reason, and I'm talking back to him. And I was pretty close to Coach Insminger, man. He let me have it. We ran, like, he let me know, like, hey, don't ever talk to me like that again. And that kind of stuff, like, I was pissed at first, but then after I calmed down, was like, God, yeah, he's right. But, like, you got new coaches, man, buy into what they're saying. Everybody's got to buy in. These coaches are good. They're smart. They've gotten there to where they're at for a reason. Listen to them, buy in. If it doesn't work, they'll get fired. But everybody's got to buy in and be on the same page. You can't have people doing, different stuff all over the place.
Yeah, I want to talk about this. We talked about, whether or not you had an aha moment to go to the league, but let's talk about that transition to being in the NFL, right? Like, what it was like being on an NFL roster and just the differences of what you needed to do to get prepared there. We talked about the jump from high school to college. Let's talk about that jump from college to the pros a little bit.
So the jump from college to pros was pretty humbling. I got invited to the combine, which to this day, probably one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me. I think 300 people went.
Yeah.
But I get to the combine again. Look at me. I'm not like an athletic specimen over here. I was at the combine with Vernon Davis. So if people don't know who that is, he was tight end for the San Francisco 49ers for a long time. I mean, the most athletic human being maybe that's ever been born. In the year that I was at the combine, 18 tight ends got drafted. I mean, it was a huge tight end year. And so going to Indianapolis and seeing those guys perform kind of blew my mind. Like, holy crap. I mean, Vernon Davis has a 41-inch vertical or something like that. I'm jumping like a 28, 29 or something. Like, that was humbling. And then I didn't get drafted. Everybody's telling me, "Oh, you'll get drafted, 5th round, latest." Well, that was a terrible day. Didn't get drafted. And then as soon as the draft ends, I get a bunch of phone calls. I've got 5 minutes to pick a team. I probably had 6 teams call. And they're like, "Do you want to be a part of the Bears, the Bengals, whoever?" And I'm like, "Oh my God." I call my agent and he's like, "Bro, you got like 2 minutes. You got to pick a team."
Wow.
I was like, "Yeah, I don't know." He's like, "Go with the Bears. They got a good tight end situation for you." I was like, "Okay." So I go to Chicago as a free agent, come into rookie mini camp. There's like 65 kids there. I'm like, "Oh my God." Like, not the team, like rookies.
Right.
Got to make it through all those cuts. I ended up making it to the very end of camp, but like, the NFL is a different world. Those guys are incredible. And the biggest change for me personally was when I was in college. Like I said, I just led with my head. Like, I could hit Andre the Giant. If I hit him right here, it's going to stun him. And that's just how I played football. Wasn't very good with my hands. It was just all crown of the head, not crown, but right here. And when I got to the NFL, the guys are so daggum fast and athletic. Like, they're just I'm falling everywhere. So I had to learn to play with my hands. That was the biggest transition for me. But I was definitely – and I was learning how to run routes better. And I was thinking, man, I wish I had known all this in college.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing when I got to college from high school. Like, I was pretty much the same size my freshman year in college. I'm like, man, if I could go back to high school, I think you could hand me the ball and I could just literally run through everybody. You just don't know how good you are until you get up against certain competition.
Right.
And then you start figuring out, like, man, I can do this. Let's go. So, yeah, that was an incredible transition. Getting better with my hands was the biggest thing for me in the NFL.
All right, Cooper. So tell us, what's post football look like for you now? What are you doing with your life? You're sitting in a cozy looking bedroom. You've got the Supercuts haircut and the polo going on. What's Cooper Wallace doing these days?
Man, Cooper Wallace is getting old. I'll turn 39 next month, and man, all kind of old man stuff, like trying to work it. Got a job working I sell pacemakers. I got 2 little kids, 5 and 2 years old, which that'll make you old right there. Living in Nashville where I grew up. Man, just this last week was trying to go to the gym, and people probably don't even know what gout is. Had gout. That's like something that like gross old guys have. They're like 80. And I'm like, can't go to the gym because I have gout. Like, that kind of stuff. I'm getting old. But, man, life's good. I got 2 healthy kids, man. Got a wife, that for some reason loves me. So I'm lucky for that. But, it's good. I mean, it's still hard. To be honest, in the business world, I struggle a little bit sometimes because, in football, when I'm, something's going wrong or whatever, it's like, well, I literally get to fight the other guy.
Right.
Right.
Across from me. Like, if I'm not doing well, it's because I'm not fighting hard enough. And it's like, all right, let's go. In the business world, you see another guy beating you, and it's like, man, I can't just come over there and like, that's where sports is the best, man. That's why sports is so awesome. It's because it's like, I'm gonna make this right, And then in the real world, it's a little different. Like, but man, all the stuff that I picked up from playing football and playing at Auburn and like being tougher than other people or all that kind of, jazz, like it translates into real life.
Yeah.
Doing all the small things, like all the crazy stuff that Yox used to make us do that I'm like, you're insane. Like, whatever. Like little monotonous stuff. And I'm like, this guy's insane. I find myself all the time being like, I'm going to do this better than the competition. I'm going to do this better. I'm going to do this better. Mm. And it translates, man. I mean, it works. So I'm thankful that I had that opportunity to learn all that.
Last question for you, man. Just have you considered, getting into coaching at all? Like you want to do, training or anything like that? Is that a part of the Cooper Wallace story at some point in time?
I did some training with people for a couple of years when I was trying to figure out, like, after the NFL. I didn't really want to get into coaching at the time. I just kind of wanted to break from football.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, now I kind of feel myself thinking, man, I would really like to coach. Probably wouldn't get into it at this point in life just because got to move so much. I'm not trying to move my family around. I mean, it's not an easy life to be a coach at all. But, I enjoy it now that I got 2 kids. Granted, they're young, but I kind of find myself coaching them just in all kind of different aspects. So I'm sure, I'll coach little league teams and whatnot, but I miss football a lot. I'd love to be, if there's a genie in a bottle and they'd be like, hey, you could be the tight ends coach for the Tennessee Titans, or Vanderbilt University, like, heck yeah, I'd do it in a second.
Yeah.
But, that's not a reality, but I still love football. I love watching it. I love watching how tight ends have evolved recently. They're a big deal in the NFL now. Hopefully they'll be a big deal at Auburn again.
Well, listen, Cooper, we really appreciate you joining us today. I got to say, I'm probably going to need to buy one of those pacemakers from you so that I can watch Auburn football next season because, the cardiac cats never make it easy for us to watch a game on Saturdays. So
that's right.
I'm going to hit you up for one of those. Well, as always, we are the War Rapport. Please click like and subscribe so that we can bring you more content like this, more interviews like this with the one and only world famous Cooper Wallace. We are the War Rapport on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TW Rapport on TikTok. Gentlemen, we're signing off, and as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.